we're coming to the end of my message series on aging with spirit. Did I hear a sigh of relief out there? Do we have to talk about this anymore? Ready to be done? Well, let me ask you this. Are you ready for the end? Are you ready for the end of this life experience? Okay, so today's going to be a day where we talk a little bit about that. End of life experience. Just keep in mind, I'll keep reminding you that you won't actually end your life ever because you're an eternal being, but this human experience will come to an end at some point, and oftentimes we're not prepared, whether it's an unexpected accident or illness. For the most part, we're unprepared because we've just been in denial about it. We have decided not to look at this topic. We've got decades to go yet before we have to address it. Let's move on, please, Kitty. And then we wind up getting to the end and realizing that we didn't say the goodbyes that we wanted to say. We didn't do the things where we planned out our ending a little bit more cleanly. And my mom's case, speaking of clean, she was feeling sad the last couple years of her life because she didn't empty out her house. And she left all this stuff for her kids to take care of. And it's like, Mom, don't worry about it. But that was, that weighed on her. So whatever it might be, it can kind of create an energy of regret towards the end of your life that you don't need to have, because another option is to come to the end of your life saying, I'm completely free. I'm going to go through a few suggestions about how to be better prepared for that time of our life. Some of you do an okay job with kind of the most predictable stuff, which is having a will written. But it turns out that only 40% of Americans actually have a will, which is quite a bit, right? I mean, quite a little. 60% of us aren't really prepared, and it might just be because, again, we don't think we have anything to leave anybody, or we think we've got plenty of time to think about that. We're in denial. In my dad's case, he wasn't into preparing a will because he was certain everything was in both he and my mom's name, and that she shouldn't have any trouble cashing in when he died. Well, turns out not the case. So just recognize that you have the opportunity to make things a little bit more easy on your family if you prepare in advance. And it might be creating a living will, which is you identifying someone that will be your voice when you may not have a voice. And that means, power of attorney for medical decisions or financial decisions, having that prepared ahead of time. But another thing that I guess I should follow my own advice here, look forward to, and yet I haven't done anything about it, is planning your funeral. You ever thought about doing that instead of asking your family to after you're gone? So planning our funeral, it might be burial or cremation. It might be where we want or if we want a service held. It might be actually writing your own obituary. That was something I had to do in seminary as an exercise. And check back on it every few years to see if anything's changed. But who better to say what your life was about than you? Writing your own obituary. And it's an opportunity for us to also maybe create a farewell message that's shared at our memorial service. I saw that done for the first time with Marty Bender, somebody that has been part of our community here at Unity, where someone read a message that he had written during his memorial service, and it was as if he was right there with us. It was just so touching, so meaningful to have that experience. And also, I'm going to invite you to think about joining me in a workshop every month, probably not beginning until the first of the year, but a chance for us to think about what would make it easier for us to come to the end of our life and say, I am completely free. I've come across quite a few different simple exercises that, should we get together, it may not take more than an hour. And if we do that once a month, It will give you a chance to just get more deeply in consciousness into who you want to be and how you want to live the last years of your life. So I'll actually have a sign-up sheet on the information table over by the windows. If you just want to let us know that you want to be on the mailing list about that, then when I start putting things together, I can let you know about it. But this whole process of preparing, getting your affairs in order, not only helps your family, but it allows you to be more authentic about leaving and making sure that people know who you really are. And another part of that, up here on the screen, I'm going to put a few topics. The first one is our legacy, what legacy we want to leave to be completely free. And the question that you might want to ask up here on the screen is, what would I grieve for if I failed to pass it on? What would I be sorry that I didn't share with someone in my life? And I'm not necessarily talking about the material. I'm more interested in what about you needs to be communicated clearly to someone that would be benefited by it. Who you are, maybe what skills you've honed throughout your life, or some knowledge that you've gained, some life experience that has just been of value to you, that's been important to you, and then figure out what group of people might be benefited by that. An organization or a group of people, maybe it's about parenting, so you want to talk to the PTA, who knows. But just invite them into a conversation with you about what your skill is, and then just offer it freely, fruits of knowledge that you're offering freely, and all you ask is that you remember me for this that I'm sharing with you. So again, it doesn't have to be, I started a corporation or I invented something, I have a copyright or whatever. It's more about maybe a point of view that you have that's unique to you, but that might benefit other people. Get your wheels turning on this. Maybe it's as simple as parenting skills, where that was one of your gifts, was to be a good parent. And who could you offer that to? How about recipes? Anybody here, love to spend time in the kitchen and we're always coming up with wonderful dishes? Pass your recipes on to somebody who would appreciate them. Or crafts or hobbies that you have. And if you have one of those secret fishing holes that you're ready to relinquish the location of, that's your legacy. Let that one go. I had a professor in seminary who actually had spent many of his years as a Unitarian minister. And as a Unitarian, he did not believe in the afterlife. But for him, he lived on in our hearts. So it was important to him about how he lived his life, so that what he taught, in this particular case, what he was teaching, had the most unusual perspective on Old Testament, New Testament Bible history. And I was so grateful to have that perspective in my life, and it will certainly live on in me even after he passes. So think about that. What is it that I have to give that might serve someone else, that reveals more of my divine potential? And start the sharing process now. Let's say this affirmation together. As I share my unique self, I am completely free. And another way that we do this, we find our freedom by offering our thanks to people. I'm sure that there is someone in your life who has blessed you in some way, where you could just jot down a note of appreciation and send it in the mail, or give them a call and have some private, authentic time together, just a straightforward, simple conversation or words on a page that gives thanks for what they provided in your life. It might have been that they were calm in a crisis and had wisdom to share for you, or they might have been a compassionate presence when you were struggling with loneliness in your life. And whatever it is, as we send our gratitude out to them, it just helps them to see what a gift they were to you, that they might want to continue offering that into the world. It's something that you can mail to them now, or if you're shy, wait till after you pass and have someone else mail it for you. I think of my speech coach in high school, and there was a crossroads in my life. I didn't know it was a crossroads, but it was a moment that would be a catalyst for my destination as an adult in many ways. I was on the speech team, and I was my event was to read poetry, just because I did well in a poetry class with him as my teacher. He thought I should try that out on the speech team. Well, I wasn't doing very well at it in the competitions. And one day I walked in for a tournament, and he met me at the door, and he said, "Kitty, Jack Brown, our radio speaker, is out today, and I want you to fill in for him." I said, "I don't even know what to do." He said, "Here's what you do." He gave me a 5-minute tutorial on what this event was about, which was basically putting news articles together and creating a newscast and staying within a certain amount of time and writing commercials and transitions and go on in there, you can do this. And in my first tournament doing that, I won second place in the tournament, and then wound up doing that for the next 2 or 3 years and won first in state in my senior year, which propelled me into broadcasting as my major in college and led me to a 15-year career in broadcasting. If he hadn't thought of me for that and pointed me in that direction, that might never have happened. I want to write him a thank you note and do it now because he's older than me. So I need to get that off to him as soon as I can. Let's say this affirmation together. As I share my gratitude with others, I am completely free. Of course, it's very hard to be completely free when we are holding things in our heart against others. So this is about also learning how to forgive before our life ends. I've been reading a wonderful book during this series and using it occasionally as well. It's called From Aging to Saging by Zalman Schachter and Ronald Miller. And they said something about forgiveness. When I refuse to forgive, I incarcerate him in a prison that I construct from bricks and mortar of a hardened heart. Now I must spend as much time in prison as the prisoner I'm guarding. All the energy that I put into maintaining the prison system comes out of my energy budget. Long-held feelings of anger and resentment drain my energy and imprison my vitality and creativity. So we've all probably heard that saying that we're drinking poison when we hold unforgiveness and expecting them to die. So this is a chance to not only take care of ourselves, to free up our energy by forgiving, but we also may need to be involved in the I'm sorry business of that conversation because we may have contributed in some way. Maybe we had some kind of hidden agenda in this conflict that we didn't reveal, or expectations that we had of them that were unrealistic. So just check and see what part you played as you consider how you can forgive and also be forgiven. And then for those moments in our life where we actually created harm in someone else's life, we may need to be the one asking for forgiveness before the end of our life. And just trust that this shadow that requires facing is one that we all have. We also call it our ego, and our ego is famous for making mistakes, hurting others in order to survive, in order to get their needs met. Our ego's always trying to get love even by doing the worst things. It's amazing what it will come up with as, this makes sense, but doesn't, and it creates harm in other people's lives. So it's an opportunity for us to admit our mistakes, to apologize to others when we know we've done harm. And again, if we can't do it in person, then we at least direct it towards ourselves, because my hunch is we can carry that heavy energy right up until the very last moment of our lives. So as we're letting go of this for ourselves, you might just want to write yourself a note of apology to forgive yourself. So we're not waiting and hoping for God to forgive. You are always loved, no matter how you have behaved in this life. But it can't be a very happy or productive or successful life if we're carrying around the mistakes that we've made in such a way that we're weighed down by that with regret. Forgive yourself and ask for forgiveness if it's possible for you. And I would just remind you that the highest form of forgiveness is something that I read from A Course in Miracles. Forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. Take that in for a minute. What you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. And this is when we can rise up in consciousness high enough to remember no person can take our good from us. No person can determine our value with their words or their actions, because God is our only source of good, and God is the only power working in our life. The only time we take offense is when we have forgotten that they have power over us. We have forgotten that the love we're seeking is actually within our own heart, within the presence of God. Let that be an activity that you work with, to look at that experience with the perpetrator, so to speak, as something that was because they were struggling. It was about their lack in who they are and what they believe about themselves. So let's speak this affirmation together. As I forgive others and myself, I am completely free. I also am encouraging you, when you're in this elder stage of life and you feel like you're coming, well, actually, no. Whatever age you are, let's do this. Whatever age you are, get familiar with what you believe about the afterlife. You don't want to wait till your deathbed to realize, oh, I have no idea what's going to happen to me next. This is a great time now, whoever you are, however old you are, to start thinking about what the afterlife will be for you. I absolutely believe that you have the ability to create that for yourself, to make that transition moment peaceful by spending days ahead of time imagining what your afterlife experience will be. I love what the Bhagavad Gita says about that. This is the Hindu gospel. It says, Krishna gives these instructions on dying. Whatever a man remembers at the last when he's leaving the body will be what his mind has most constantly dwelt on during his life, and will be realized by him in the hereafter. So, I think about the many of us, and I see this in near-death experiences, when I go online and read about them, read books. You often hear that a person had the type of near-death experience that they were taught they were going to have as children. Which is why I think some folks experience a dark experience, because they were taught that there's a hell. And they never undid that thought. They might have even walked away from church, but if they hadn't changed their understanding about it, that's what will come up for you in consciousness, potentially. So let's be mindful of what we believe now. I mean, if you're listening to this today and you've gotten this far without turning me off, then my hunch is you are beyond the belief in hell, but you may not have actually established what you do believe when you come into that experience. So start envisioning now. Is this an opportunity to be with loved ones? Finally meet your spirit guides or your guardian angels? Is this a chance for you to create, to have fun and be active, or to, like my vision, at least for a short period, which could be eternal? My vision of heaven is like that movie, A Field of Dreams, where they're sitting on the porch of this big old farmhouse looking out over a field of corn. Yeah, that is heaven for me. Give me my iced tea with lemon in it. I'm going to do some resting for a while. Blue sky, puffy clouds. So yeah, create this experience. Is it going to be an experience of pure oneness, where you are one with all that is? Or pure knowing? Is it going to be an experience of unconditional love? A feeling of bliss and all-knowingness? Just think about that and have fun creating that experience. I'm sure that since we're eternal, this experience could become infinite ways of expressing during this time. But make that transition period one that you are seeing for yourself. Remember, we teach in Unity, our third Unity principle is that we create our life experience through our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. And we talk about this principle as something that engages divine law, that we bring into our life experience what it is that we're thinking, feeling, and believing. That's not going to end when you leave the body. It's going to become much more vivid, much more immediate. You'll be creating at the snap of a finger, if we have fingers. But it's your chance to think about, what do I want to create? And remember that the divine law is still working for you. Let's speak this affirmation. As I make peace with the afterlife, I am completely free. And one last little episode, nothing major, just popping out of the body. We talk about making our transition as that experience in unity. This is also a chance to plan for that experience in the moments that lead up to it. So, I know that some of you may think that's morbid to think about that moment. I personally think it's sacred. I think it's an affirmation of life to decide on how present you want to be for that experience. Yes, I get it. Some of us may be unconscious. That's okay. But if you can be aware of what's going on for you for the last hours of life, you may want to have already talked to somebody that you trust and tell them how you want that experience to be. Do you want music playing? Do you want your pet near you? Do you want a last and final taste of chocolate and peanut butter ice cream? Do you want to smell lilacs? What do you want? Who do you want there with you? And who don't you want there with you? You might want to just emphasize that. Do you want someone reading you a poem or a scripture that's meaningful to you at that point? Where do you want this to happen if you have a choice? Where do you want to be that feels comfortable? This is your moment to experience the physicality of life for the last time for a while, unless, of course, you believe in reincarnation. So you might want to clarify what it is that you'd like this to be like. And I get that when you're faced with it, and you know you're in process, that it may be a little uncomfortable. So you also might want to have somebody who's trained or this trusted, friend or relative with you that can help remind you of what you've discussed. That they can be the person that calms your spirit, that reminds you of what spiritual beliefs you hold and kind of point you in that direction. Remind you that, your spiritual guides or your loved ones are waiting for you on the other side to point you towards that experience of light, to help remember that you're loved, that you're safe in this moment and throughout this experience. It's a chance for them to help you breathe and relax in your body without struggle and just trust that it's unfolding as it should, knowing that you are in and will be in a peaceful presence. Talk about that ahead of time with them, and they'll be there to help you through that, to alleviate any fear. And it's also really the steps that will help you stay aware in the moment of what's really happening. Let me share with you something that Maureen Holbert said. She's a psychotherapist who, get this, for the most of her life, she was an actress. At the age of 65, she went back to school and not only got a degree in theater, but another degree in psychotherapy. So here's what she said. Because I regard death as an integral part of life, I intend to die consciously, in full possession of my wits. I approach death with a curiosity and sense of wonder. In fact, I suspect that death may be the greatest adventure of all. I want to experience death with a joyous capacity to wholeheartedly embrace whatever lies on my path. Death is a natural part of aging, and it's just as important as the life that has preceded it. So make space for it to be an experience that you choose as much as you can. Let's say this together. As I make peace with death, I am completely free. Now, there is a statement, I am completely free, that I'm going to hand over to you and let you think about for the rest of your life. What still needs to happen in your life so that when you get to the end, you can say, I am completely free and really mean it? What needs to happen? I'm going to start putting some workshops together once a month, probably after the beginning of the year, just an hour at a time, with exercises that will help you look at these things that we've been talking about for the last 5 weeks and keep purifying your spirit, your mind, and your body in such a way that when you come to the end, you can say, I am completely free. And if you want to be notified when those happen, make sure you put your name on the list out on the info table. But for now, what I'd like to do is take us through a meditation that allows us to relieve ourselves of some heaviness, to become more free, as we think about maybe a hurt that we've been carrying around. It doesn't necessarily have to be that there's someone in particular you need to forgive. Maybe it is. But in this meditation, I'm just going to ask you to think about something that's happened in your life that's still there, that's still present for you, that when you think about it, it feels heavy. And let's see if we can't make contact with our higher self, that elder self that's already finished our life and knows all the good that's in store for us, and create that space today. Let's take a deep breath and relax that body. Feel your face relaxing, your neck and shoulders letting go. Let your weight sink into the chair. Feel your legs and feet resting on Mother Earth as it absorbs all your tension. In this safe place, let your memory bring up something in your life that still hurts when you think about it. A time when you felt alone, or misunderstood. Unconsoled. Just hurting. How old were you? Allow yourself to take on that person. You're in a safe place. We're going to take that person for a walk in nature. There's a beautiful grassy path underneath your feet. As you're thinking about that hurt, you can also see further down the path to a friendly cottage. As you're walking towards it, feeling the hurt of your heart, you know that there is love waiting for you in this cottage. It is the home of your elder self, your higher self. The spirit that is never touched by hurt.
It is the spirit that carries the wisdom you need to move through that hurt. You reach for the doorknob, it opens, and there is this beautiful being of light who looks a lot like you. There is deep love in their eyes, and they greet you with a warm hug of compassion. Its voice sounds like your voice as it shares its wisdom with you. We honor this pain from the past. It was not deserved. Its pain is simply telling you there is something new to understand here. This occurrence of pain came not because it was about you. Not defining who you are. It first comes from the other person's own sense of lack, their own misunderstanding of who they are. The fact that your pain has lasted this long is simply your own misunderstanding of who you are. You are deeply loved, just as you are. You are whole as you are. You are just as unique and sacred as all other beings. You have the courage within you to move beyond that memory. You are opening to valuable lessons from this experience. You are coming into a realization of your true worth. For you are God expressing. As you know this truth, you willingly release this hurt. You feel it lessening even now. You feel lighter and ready to live life free from hurt. In spirit, you are already free. You are completely free. Now take a moment to see if there's anything else that your higher self wants to share with you. You can be at peace knowing that this wisdom and this unconditional love are always waiting for you in the presence within. You find yourself back on the path, walking towards the place where you started, feeling lighter, becoming aware of the room around you. And as you sense the presence of others next to you, you can still sense the presence of the pure and perfect love of spirit within that you carry with you always. As we know that in our hearts, we are completely free. And so it is. Amen.